Welcome. Welcome. Welcome back to the second of our series of Business Travel Innovation Face-Off competitions. And we're delighted to have you here. I'm David Meyer, and I'm happy to be facilitating this session. And please join me in welcoming our distinguished panel of judges. We have our head judge, Steve Clagg, Travel Technology Manager, Microsoft. ServiceNow Regional Travel Manager, EMEA, Corinne Morin, EY Innovation and Technology Leader, Ian Spearing, and the 2021 Business Travel Show Europe Business Travel Innovator Award winner, Grapevine CEO, Jack Dow. Please. There are two awards pictured here, and last year Jack managed to win both the Business Travel Show Europe Innovator Award and the Innovate Award in the States. So, and I understand we still owe him one of these trophies, so we'll work on that. In this session, we're going to hear from 3 more of 9 innovative business travel supplier presenters chosen from 20 applicants by our selection committee to vie as contestants today. This morning we heard from TripStacks, Arise Travel, and Journey. In this second segment, we'll see tools designed to enhance the corporate booking and contracting experience from Corporate Traveler, Amadeus Microsoft, otherwise known in this presentation as Citric, and Simard. Presenters are limited to 7 minutes for their presentations. Then they'll have a 4-minute Q&A with our judges, followed by 2 minutes of Q&A with you in the audience. We'll be very strict about the 7 and the 4 minutes, but we'll be a little less strict about the 2 minutes because we do want to encourage you to ask questions. So now I believe we're ready to begin Face-Off Part 2. So please join me in welcoming to the stage Trevor Brink, Head of Product for Corporate Traveler.
Thank you. So hello, my name is Trevor Brink. I'm the head of product for Corporate Traveler. Came all the way over for the States for my first BTS, so I'm so honored to be here. And before I get some dirty looks from you, I just want to let you know I did offset my corporate travel. I'm here today to talk to you guys about our new product called Melon. Corporate Traveler is part of the Flight Center Travel Group. We are focused exclusively on startup to mid-market companies, and we are the largest TMC to do so. We identify or call startup to mid-market companies also SMEs in the industry. We define that as a company that spends less than about £3 million annually, typically has about less than 300 travelers, and has a regional footprint more so than a multinational or a global one. We've been around for a while. We've been around for over 20 years. Got started as a team of leisure agents that were booking for business travelers in Australia and have grown to become a really large global brand with 80 offices in over 7 countries globally. We have over 16,000 customers that represent a $2 billion spend annually. And the secret to our success has always been about the people, the dedicated people that we have behind our operation. So we do actually give every one of our SME customers a dedicated travel agent in order to support their businesses. They get to know the travelers really well and actually anticipate their needs, often becoming an extension of their programs. And over the years, we still continue to get really great feedback about that service model, but have started to see some of the trends in business digital transformation carry over into the business travel sector. So where our customers are really thrilled in working with our dedicated consultants, they have asked for more self-service tools, the ability to get that kind of instant gratification that you get from an Amazon or an Uber, and have kind of a personalized experience similar to a Netflix or today's TikTok. So there are a few things that are unique to SME as well. Digital transformation is not one of them. That is impacting large market as well. But oftentimes in these SME spaces, these companies don't have dedicated travel managers internally. There's not somebody who is looking after that program fully. So they lack the bandwidth and the buying power to negotiate relationships with suppliers and actually manage full time. And because more than 50% of our customers come from unmanaged previously, their benchmark for user experience is usually OTAs or direct with suppliers. They don't have the same familiarity or kind of grace that they would give legacy tech in our industry. And then just based off of the size of the companies, they're typically less often mandating the use of travel or kind of putting any kind of penalties on folks who do book outside of this space. So it's really important that we provide a great user experience and a great service offline. And this isn't just a problem for SMEs, or sorry, for TMCs. They also present a challenge to suppliers. Just the sheer volume of SMEs make it really difficult from a sales team to go out and navigate and win that business. And then once you bring it on board, it's really difficult to manage and service at scale. And then lastly, with differentiation, our customer segment is typically the premium type of traveler, less focused travel policy or stringent travel policy, a higher willingness to pay without any kind of corporate discounts. So they are the premium crop, and most of our legacy technology today is kind of a race to the bottom. It is really hard to differentiate on anything other than price. So with that, the size of the opportunity for SME travel being 2/3 of the business travel market, and the COVID pandemic actually accelerating the digital transformation in our industry, we felt it was really important that we take over full control of the customer experience from end to end, which is how we got Melon. This is a total travel management solution built just for SMEs. And it is built in the DNA of Corporate Traveler and our customers, not just another OBT, not just another travel app. At a high level, it is the one-stop shop for SMEs to search, book, and manage their travel. It is available on desktop and mobile applications, and it's available to all personas, travelers, arrangers, and admins. Starting with the OBT experience, it was really important to us that we developed a really great user experience and access to exclusive content. So we've actually built a true door-to-door search functionality, because your business trip doesn't just start when you get at the airport. We've also baked in multi-source shopping, so you can see where we're giving comparisons to OTAs throughout the journey to kind of build trust with our travelers. We're using content aggregators and TP Connects to pull in GDS, NDC, and low-cost carriers. And then in the hotel space, we're using Hotel Hub in order to pull in GDS and OTA content, really making sure that our SME travelers have everything in one place to book and manage their travel. And it really, you'll notice just some cheeky design and modern UX just to make sure that we keep folks in the same flow and delight them along the way. One of the other things that's new in the product is a new approach to travel policy. It's a dynamic algorithm that actually pulls in current market conditions in order to create a trip budget for our travelers. And it's incredibly flexible. You can see the algo tuner here that actually allows you to play up these factors that we call best for business travel. Things like price, number of stops, the drive time, flight time, whether the traveler has loyalty or it's a company preferred. All of those things are completely customizable to weigh up and match the company culture that we're working with and generate a trip and sort options that are recommended for them. And for our admins, they do have access to interactive reporting. So it's really important to us that we provide a hierarchy of information so that they can understand high-level trends and then actually drill into the information through that. So this is embedded from Power BI. And it's not just exclusive to financial reporting. We do have traveler health and safety to manage duty of care. And we've got some sustainability, a carbon emission, in order to kind of lower your footprint or neutralize. And one of the benefits of being in the travel industry for over 20 years and building our own tech is means we can pull our IP and actually build tips and tricks into the flow. So you can see here we've got a heads up message talking about flying in and out of 2 different airports. These are things that we've baked into the checkout and also into different pop-up modals that would be things that our travel consultants would be providing or sharing with our customers, trying to build that kind of care uplifted into the experience. And then if you do find yourself in a pickle, which I think a lot of us have found ourselves in the last couple of months as our industry recovers, we do have a team of agents that are available around the clock. This is not a chatbot, or this isn't low-level customer service. These are our dedicated and expert agents waiting to help in the times of need when things are really stressful. Cool. Some promising early indicators. We already have a 12% higher conversion rate since launching in the fall of 2021. We've cut our onboarding time in half and delighted users with a Net Promoter Score of 50 and a customer satisfaction score of 98%. The end result, happier travelers, greater value, and higher adoption. I just want to see if you guys are ready to take a bite.
Stay here. Okay, and now we're ready for our judges to start the 4 minutes of questioning.
I found what was intriguing, like probably most jumped out at me immediately, was the dynamic policy and budget generator feature, which is really, I don't like to know two things. One, how what's the level of adoption of that by your customer base? And two, is it set for a corporate-wide application, or does it have a dynamic sort of user or traveler or employee segment type of capability?
Yep. Really good question. So it does actually, we can apply it on a profile, a group, or the company level. Just knowing that there's different subsections within a company that might have different budgets or policy applied to them, want to make sure it was really flexible. And we do have a really high adoption of it, especially in our space. I think there's only 5 of our 300 customers that have actually disabled the functionality. Really appreciate kind of having a benchmark in order to guide their decision making versus kind of like a lower end. It's a little bit more flexible.
Okay. So not just, can you elaborate a little bit more on how this makes you different from your competitors?
Yeah, sure. So I think the focus in adding kind of like the helpful tips and tricks in and having the chat support is a level above what our competitors do, where typically you would see either great tech experience or a great offline experience. We really want to make sure that that is carried throughout in a hybrid environment, because it's important to have both. And just the dynamic policy has really kind of been a game changer for us, because a lot of what's out there in the industry today is more static, where you're kind of setting a price threshold and needing to kind of look through sustainability, or not sustainability, seasonality, in order to kind of come up with budgets for hotels. And in our space, especially coming back from COVID, where recovery is kind of crazy, it's actually been super helpful to give a benchmark based on market conditions and what the availability looks like at the time.
I mean, I think it looks like a really good platform, clearly for an addressable market, which is significant. I guess my question would be, when you're building this platform, knowing there's multiple personas that are using it, obviously the travel manager, but also the traveller, how are you factoring sort of the development of the tool to cater to both those different sort of types of people using the system?
Yeah, that's kind of the challenge every day, right? Because sometimes those things are in conflict, where the admins are wanting more financial control or more oversight, and the travelers are typically looking for a little bit more flexibility. We try to kind of split it directly in the middle is kind of our choice, because we know that we have to get into the room and working with those travelers, so we have to solve for the admins first. And then once we're in there, just making sure that we're advocating for the travelers and the arrangers to make sure a positive user experience throughout.
Great presentation. Going back to the dynamic policy, is that, when you say it's dynamic, is that the ability for people to set it on a regular basis, or is it truly dynamic in terms of, for example, London this week, you know, you might have a policy of $200 a night or something like that, and you go, well, actually this week you can't get anything for anything under 400. Is it resetting dynamically like that, or is it a, you know, how is that kind of thing being dealt with?
Yeah, it's dynamic at the trip level. So essentially, our admins can change the settings at any time, kind of play up the weighting for one factor over another. But based on the current availability, we're scanning and creating kind of a preferred or recommended set of results, and then actually coming up with like a weighted average of those results for that. So it is very specific to the market and the conditions that are available at the time.
Do we have more questions from us? Oh. Yeah, great. Hey, Power BI, right on. So your analytics package, is it just sort of bound in and then delivered as that through the Power BI platform, or do you actually support other analytics and visualization tools that, based on what customers may or already have in-house?
Yeah, we have the ability to use others. In the SME space, typically they don't come in with a preferred visualization layer. They're really just happy to have visibility for the first time, because more than 50% of them have never had data on their travel program. So very happy to have a rich product like Power BI, and thank you to Microsoft.
Okay, so now we have 2 minutes for audience Q&A, and I see a hand going right up.
David, you said we had more than 2 minutes, so I have 2 questions. First one is on the sustainability part. I love the door-to-door stuff. Does that translate to the reporting? So do you do the reporting from sustainability from door to door? Because I think that would be a really cool edge in this. And the second, what's the business model?
That was a rhetorical question.
So I'll start with the first one, with the door-to-door. Yeah, we do have data on all analytics that are happening on the front end. We've started with a simpler kind of version of our analytics package for customers that's really around financial cost, reservation data, and sustainability as well. So the next level that we're going to bake in is more about how folks are searching and actually interacting with the platform in order to inform policy and more basically training, education for our travelers. So that's kind of like the next phase for us. In terms of the business model, we have a flat fee. So we do have like an offline fee and then an online fee essentially for it. So it's pay per use, kind of an ad hoc type of a thing. Just in the SME space, there's typically not a huge market for like managed or kind of subscription services based on the use. So we tend to go with like a ad hoc type of a approach.
Another question in the audience? Okay, how about a big hand for Travis? Nice job. How about a really huge hand, I guess I should have said. Okay, next up, we're happy to introduce the tag team of Leidy Charpin, VP Corporate Solutions for Travel and Expense, Amadeus Citrix Solutions, and Yunus Belkadi, Senior Program Manager, Microsoft Travel.
No, it's gone off. It's got dead display. There it goes. It's got to wiggle it. It's like when you hit your TV.
Hi, good afternoon. So I'm Yunus Belkadi. I'm a Senior Travel Program Manager with Microsoft. I'll introduce myself afterwards. So since the beginning of the pandemic, the way we work has dramatically changed. So between remote teams, hybrid workplaces, the way we collaborate is changing. Since last year, Microsoft and Amadeus entered into a strategic partnership to reintroduce or reinvent the way we book travel and we collaborate. One of the first results of this collaboration, is Citrix Easy. So Citrix Easy is leveraging the Microsoft collaboration tool that you all know, or some of you know, Microsoft Teams, and Amadeus Citrix Easy, which is known for its technological advance. You want to do this?
Yeah. So I'm going to continue. Thanks a lot. So what if actually we could have one single entry point to do everything related to travel and expense? We know that today the travel information is scattered, the experience is difficult. So we actually thought that we could change completely the overall experience and the collaboration. So you know, when we have to plan some group booking, today we use email, phone call, chit chat, but actually there is a lack of innovation. What if we do that, actually we could improve the productivity, and not only from a user perspective, but as well for finance, for accountants, and we would have smart notification that would pop up to actually from Microsoft Teams do everything. And what if, in the end, we could maximize the value of a trip? So we would have, a very nice dashboard about the ROI and ensuring that everyone stays within the corporate program. So that's why we have launched Citrix Easy. We can go to the next slide, which is a fully immersive application within Teams. So it's seamless, because actually from Microsoft Teams, it's possible to do everything. There is no toggling between different applications. You stay actually where you are in your day-to-day business. It's very collaborative. So actually people can share their trip, and the receiving person can actually book the same hotel, can share the same ride, etc. So that generates savings for the corporation, and that's improve the overall experience. Personalized, because we are using not only the data that we have from a corporate tool, but we are leveraging actually the information from Microsoft Graph, and I will explain further. And finally, it's very smart because it really enables to show the value of the trip with very nice dashboard and reporting. So now I'm going to actually show you a video, if we can go to the video, and I will explain. So we have two persons. So Jenny needs to go to Seattle. So she's chatting with Mary, and then she checks that she has not a booking to go to Seattle. So what she does, she goes in Cytric Easy, have a dashboard about the upcoming trip, and can plan a booking. We see here the search flight natively with COVID information. And then she will be provided package recommendation, personalized to her preference, but also the shortest and the greenest. From there, she can select a recommendation, and she can see all the details of her flight and exchange with Mary what's the best recommendation. So she has not done the booking yet, but she can share and exchange with Mary. So once this is done, she completes her booking, and she can add an hotel directly in Teams. She receives a confirmation of the booking, and she can go, and now she has the real booking. She can share again now with Mary her final booking. And she will then receive a notification, Mary, of what Jenny has booked. And actually, she can book the same thing from the card. So that's very powerful in terms of collaboration and savings. She go back to her trip dashboard. She has all the details, and you see on the right side the close collaborator at destination. This is leveraging Microsoft Graph because it's the people that she interacts the most with. She came back from her trip and received a notification in Teams again about the expense reporting. Okay, so it's a reminder. She can click on the dashboard of expense. She has her to-do list with the spend, the type of, if it's hotel, flight. She can also merge some unassigned receipt from a credit card and a photo. And from there, she also can send an approval, and the approver is going to receive the notification directly in Teams. So Daniela, she can see the traveler, and she can approve in one click directly within Teams. And finally, Janie is notified that the expense has been approved. So we see that in the final screen. Okay? So overall, we are super excited to launch Cytric. Today we have early adopters already, and we really think it's going to make a big difference in the market. So thanks a lot for your attention.
So with time to spare, well done. Now, just so you know, Steve from Microsoft is recused himself from the scoring for this presentation, but we're not taking them out of asking questions.
Hell no.
So take it away.
All right. All right, let me give you this scenario, okay? So you showed me this really interesting ability for me and say like 3 other colleagues on a team session chatting together about a trip up to, say we're all going to Madrid. And we're coming from different locations, so we're talking about where to meet, how to get there. 2 of us are coming from the same location, so we want to be on the same flight. I get that whole context here. I can have that conversation now in Teams, and I can bring real data in from the booking system. So I got halfway there, and all of a sudden we discover ourselves. Thanks for showing that. That's a good picture. I need an agent. I need an agent to help me finish this. So tell me how that works. I've done online booking partly. Now I need a travel agent to help with a problem with a hotel or something. Can a travel agent participate in this?
Excuse me.
So actually, the Cytric Easy is based on Cytric platform. Cytric platform is integrated in the TMC. All our TMC partners, and actually we are working hand in hand with our TMC partner, so that this is part of the overall servicing. So there is no change between a current situation where you do a booking with Cytric as a self-booking tool that works embedded into the TMC processes. The same with Citric Easy. Okay, it's a different user interface integrated in Teams, but all the rest, the PNR, the downstream processes are exactly the same.
And so you've shown us flights, hotel. Is there any other product that can be booked through Teams as well?
Yeah, so everything that can be booked in the self-booking tool, so including car, including taxi, including railways, everything is available in the same tool because it's rely on our core self-booking tool.
You touched a little bit on how it positively impacts the finance department. I think that's always quite an interesting topic. So how does it positively impact reconciliation and how, as a corporate buyer going in and working very closely with finance departments, they've got a lot of pain points and a lot of challenges created by travel. So how could this be a positive news story with finance departments, and what are some of the benefits by using this platform?
So actually we involved, finance department into the design of the product. So one clear area is all the manual action. The accountant, for instance, they have to go through the expense report. Okay, they actually would receive a notification, and we recently signed also a partnership with Abzem for automatic, fraud detection based on the receipt to have zero manual check. So actually this tool that we see and the expense has the automatic auditing, and the accountant will receive just a notification in case there is a high risk receipt that has been detected by the expense tool, and we receive in Teams a notification. So we believe against fraud and also for productivity purpose, it's really, really good for finance personas.
Can I just have one more question? Do you mind?
No.
What? No, I can't. I'll ask the controversial question because I haven't been too controversial yet. But how does this differ to an already well-established end-to-end travel and expense platform? From my view, it's just putting it into Teams, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it than just that. So how would you react to that question?
It's a good question. So actually what we did, we looked at 50 apps that exist today from travel and expense into Microsoft, and we didn't find any application that use native features. So native is what we see now, or the flight search, meaning that it's not an iframe, it's not, from a user perspective, you really have the impression, actually it's a team embedded application. And second, we didn't find any tools that are collaborative. So here you see the beauty that we leverage the data from travel, from expense, everything we know from the Microsoft ecosystem to trigger, notification directly where the business traveler is. So that's a key difference. We couldn't see any solution. And then the personalization is just because we have also the data that coming from Microsoft graph.
Just one comment. And also you don't have to toggle between different apps, one for expenses, one for travel, one for communicating with email or Outlook. So it's all within one single app, Microsoft Teams.
And now we have 2 minutes for the audience. Does anyone have a question?
So I understand you've brought the travel experience into Teams. Teams is about communication. Does it go the other way as well? So can the TMC contact the traveller through Teams? And if there's a flight delay, does that also come through as a ping on Teams?
So when there is a flight delay, similarly to what we have today with self-booking tool, there is a message. But what we are working with our TMC partners is the servicing that they are offering in this case, that we combine this solution with the service that are provided. So for instance, a chatbot of a servicing TMC company that could actually be part of this solution. So today, to answer clearly, you receive a notification that the flight is delayed, but then if there are any action to take, either there is the online exchange that's available in the tool, but it's also possible to exchange with the TMC, and we see in the future, you know, to have the chatbot of those TMC embedded into those solutions.
Is there another question from the audience? I'll get you in a sec.
How is the system coping with non-profile travelers, and how many policies can you attach to a non-profile travelers? So if you have different policies, can you switch between them?
So non-profile travelers, you mean people that do not have any profile within the tool? Ah, okay, okay. Okay, so for that it's possible in this solution, like in Citric actually, to handle guests, okay, contractor, people that are coming with the interviews. We just need to attach, you know, the right cost center of the one who will be billed actually for the trip. So that's a normal process that we have in the self-booking tool, at least in Citric, okay. So that will depend on the site and the location. So if it's exactly the same travel arranger, the same department today, we would attach, you know, a policy to a group, a division, a location. So we have a lot of possibilities to customize. So if it's then another department that will, you know, for another candidate, it's totally possible to have a different policy. And I would say that in case it's exactly the same person, the same location, we can play with the trip purpose. So depending on the trip purpose, it's possible to have a different type of policy that are being applied.
At the beginning, you mentioned a smart dashboard that shows the value of a trip. When you say the value of a trip, is that the cost of it, or are you somehow quantifying the value and the benefit of the trip to the organization?
Yeah, so it has both. So you see the value, like the total cost of the trip from air, hotel, transportation, but we are also talking about the total value of sharing with your manager or sharing with your co-workers about your plans for the trip. So that's the total value of the trip.
And if I can add, the fact to have the close collaborator at destination, what we mean is that with this solution, with one trip, we want to maximize the number of interaction with the network from the corporation, possibly, you know, customers, etc. And we want actually to have dashboard to evaluate and to collect the feedback after the trip about the value, because this is what, you know, travel manager are focusing on. There is a cost, there is a sustainability, but it's also what business does it bring to the business.
Thanks so much. How about a big hand for Leidy and Eunice? Thank you. And now our final presenter, for the Business Travel Show Innovation Face-Off for today. Please welcome Pedro Anderson, CEO, Simard.
Not CEO, founder. Thank you. So, travel distribution is broken. I was going to use a different word, but really we're using infrastructure for distribution that is, in some cases, 40 years old. So the plumbing for a lot of the interfaces we see is very old and doesn't allow for innovation. And this hurts every type of business involved in travel. Buyers are telling us they're frustrated with the lack of transparency and comprehensive information on contract performance. Many business travelers are booking outside of channel because of missing content, lack of personalization in their itinerary, even though there should be enough data. Suppliers are frustrated with the high fees that they're paying for these distribution channels and the lack of control over pricing and offers that they would like to have. And so they're sometimes intentionally, in many cases, withholding content from third parties. But the worst part of it all is that innovation is impossible with the current infrastructure. I say impossible, there's still innovation, but most of it is on the periphery. It's tweaking, trying to find a way to fit in, but it's very difficult because of how rigid the old systems are. And that's why we started Winding Tree. So Winding Tree is an alternative to traditional legacy distribution. And it's open source, peer-to-peer, secured with Web3 technologies. And the idea is to democratize access to travel inventory so we can foster innovation in the industry. And Simard is bringing the flexibility, personalization, and choice that this technology can empower companies with and bringing it to corporate travel. So let's look at what we're doing with some of our buyers. Our first buyer wanted to test out the technology. So what they're doing is they're taking the corporate negotiated benefits that their employees normally enjoy for business travel and offering it in their personal travel. Now this gives them a competitive edge in hiring, but it also gives them an experience of what kind of rich data they could potentially have control over and access to were they to be using this kind of technology. And the suppliers are happy too because they don't have to pay any kind of distribution fees, and they're also able to have much more control over pricing and offers. The second buyer wanted to do something around sustainability. Now many corporations they have sustainability goals. They're trying to cut down or limit travel in some way, trying to show the carbon footprint and offset in some way. But this customer wanted to do something more tangible and measured. So we're helping them to tokenize the carbon footprint so like a little token that represents the carbon emissions for that trip that then goes into a company balance that is a shared source of truth that's tamper resistant, so nobody can cheat and play with the numbers. And then as that balance builds up, they can confidently offset that completely. The third buyer wanted to do something around soft benefits. Now, when buyers are negotiating hard benefits, the discounts, there's also the soft benefits, the Wi-Fi passes, the upgrades, temporary status, and so on. And they felt that the current process is very manual, and it makes it very difficult to use these soft benefits strategically. So again, we're helping them to digitize those soft benefits, and bring a level of automation that can really leverage those soft benefits. It also has more flexibility, so if they have a potential new hire that they're flying in, they could send those digitized and soft benefits to them to enjoy on the trip. But the cool thing is that none of these guys had to reinvent the wheel. They're able to use the existing online booking tools that they love, the TMCs that they trust, because what's changing is the plumbing. This isn't a redesign of, nicer logo and all that kind of stuff. This is the plumbing underneath. If you think about when Tesla was introducing the electric car, they didn't do away with the steering wheel and replace it with a joystick. It used the existing interfaces we're all used to, 5 seats, 5 doors, but the plumbing is fundamentally different. And that's the part that's changing here. And it's bringing a level of flexibility that you just don't have in the old world. Because from all the buyers that I've talked to, they talk about how, hey, I want to change, but it's hard to make a change, right? So that's the friction that we're eliminating. The business model is straightforward, simple menu of services based on the smart contracts and features that the customer decides to use. It's not based on just rent on holding inventory and so on. Simard works today. We're live with 3 companies. We have more contracts underway. We're generating revenue. And our team comes from the crossroads of blockchain genius and years of experience in travel with Norm Rose, Johnny Thorsten from Spotnana, Don Birch, who's here with us, who was the CEO of Abacus leading up to the acquisition by Sabre, and Matthew Tejon is a blockchain architect who's been building on Ethereum since the early days, but also worked in many years in Amadeus on payments. And my co-founder and I were the pioneers of the first ever blockchain project in travel, which Microsoft wrote about in their manifesto about travel a couple years back. We're Simard, and we're empowering corporate travel with choice. Thank you.
Nicely done. Who's going to start the questioning this time? Jack?
Thank you. Good presentation. Can you provide a use case for, going to a client, telling them what you're going to do with them, and then how they apply your technology?
So for starters, distribution would be much cheaper. So that's kind of like the base offering, but that's not generally enough, right? You want to add some value on top.
So who's your client? So who are you going to?
To a corporate buyer.
Right.
And so the reduction in the cost of distribution is it's the benefit across the board. But then as far as which pilot they would use, for example, these were all selected by the buyers because they said, hey, I want to try this, right? So they took the infrastructure that we've built and they used it to do what they were planning to do. So think of it as, you have your traditional toys like a Barbie house where you buy it and you stick your Barbie in it, you press buttons. This is more like Legos where you build what you want with it, right? Well, except for Simard helps to build it.
Cool. But it's coming across as very garagey, right? Like, so you've got these cool little pilots, they launch them, they test the proof of concept, they go, cool, cool. So how many of those actually went to production, like productionized, and they're like part of the business as usual?
2 of them.
All right. And are those examples, or were they just enrichment or enhancement to the booking experience, or were they actually replacing the old legacy models for booking? Because you gave examples for like, you keep your OTT, but then we do this cool thing with soft benefits, which must be some kind of parallel action.
Yeah, well, smart contracts, they're different than traditional contracts, which are paper, and you have to wait for fulfillment review and everything. They're basically self-executing real time, and that can be done in collaboration. We have a growing list of more progressive OBTs and TMCs that see the potential here, and they're ready to work with us, so they're plugging it into their systems. But to answer your question, one of the pilots is on their own booking tool. So it's without any kind of TMC involvement, without any.
Okay. So you are talking about broken pieces in travel. So what do you think will be your next pilot, or what other thing you think you can improve?
I think that what I would like to see is it going beyond pilot and seeing broader adoption. For me, the exciting milestone would be somebody seeing how much value they're getting out of the pilot and saying, I want to overhaul my entire travel program. And we've seen this with other companies. There are the Trip Actions of the world and so on who moved to cloud, and companies have made the complete overhaul over to that model. But I think going to cloud's not enough. Like in travel, it's kind of exciting and it's news, but in traditional tech world, Web 2 is yesterday, Web 3 is what's eating the world of software and banking. It's not enough, basically.
When you're going in talking to suppliers to get them into your marketplace to connect to the end user, what's your sales pitch to the suppliers to get them on board?
So for suppliers, initially it was the interest from buyers. Secondly, it was reduction in distribution costs. But I think that a lot of them have gotten excited about the flexibility that we originally intended for the buyers, and they've started asking what kind of pilots can we do. So for example, one of the airlines wanted to take the tokenized cancellation policies so that it could be a token that goes down in value. Let's say it's a $500 cancellation refund, and it could actually be traded on a secondary market and so on. So they're looking and exploring into potential flexible experiments that they could do that they couldn't do with the old infrastructure.
And that's our judges' time. Now it's time for you guys to ask questions. Any question in the audience? Well, I have a question. So what happens to the profile of the individual traveler in the Simard world? How is that different? Is it different from the standard operating procedure?
So we don't touch the individual traveler's profile. It's handled by the TMC or whoever is managing the booking
Any other questions from the judges?
Yeah. Again, like, you know, beautiful architecture, great promises, you know, Web 3.0, the future, but without buy-in, without contribution, without content. So how much do you have, and who is saying, goodbye GDS, now I'm going to list my stuff in you instead?
Nobody's done that cold turkey. Yeah,
That's tough.
And I think that's a very important challenge, and I think that's. But that's something that if we have enough buyers on board, will happen eventually. Because I remember in the early days of crypto, everyone was saying that about Bitcoin and Ether. I remember it was like $7, and everyone's telling me like, oh, you know, how many people will actually accept it? But it's really eating the world.
Nobody. I just keep it in my basement. Right? Hoard it.
Exactly.
No.
But yeah, that is.
It's a tipping point.
There would be a tipping point.
When do you think that'll be? Because how can you get customers if you're already there? Like, you have to have customers that go, okay, I know and I accept the fact that you know, half or less content's not going to be there for now, but I believe it will be. Like, where is that tipping point going to be?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that it will happen, whether it's by Simard and Winding Tree or by somebody else. It will happen, and it has happened. It's inevitable, right?
And you're relying then on the corporate customers to drive that, is what it sounds like. By
yeah,
putting the
but now
pressure.
suppliers are actually pushing it as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think it's an industry need to move forward, isn't it, from transparency perspective. I think what maybe Pedro you could have touched on even more is about the personalization of content that the end user is going to be able to receive through this transparent distribution pipe work, is how I would describe it. And for transparency, I can't vote in this one as well, so we can make assumptions on who we might be working with as well. But I think there's lots of benefits potentially from a corporate perspective as well. And could you just touch on maybe the smart contracting piece? So from a pure procurement as a travel buyer, what the Web3 and blockchain could potentially enable a travel manager to have better visibility and contracting abilities with suppliers.
Yeah, we're over a minute, but I mean, you described it. I'd be happy to talk to anyone who wants to to dig into that.
Okay, have a big hand for Pedro. And please, a big hand for the judges and their great questions. Thank you all for your participation today. We appreciate it. And please come back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. When we'll be seeing presentations from Table for One, HRS, and TripShift. And then join us again back here at 14:30 tomorrow when the judges will give their commentary and name the Business Travel Innovator Award winner. Thanks so much.